Imagine, you're standing on a smoke-filled battlefield. It's 1862. Your commanding officer might be addressing some of his troops, when all of a sudden, Bardan's sharpshooters are probably some of the most infamous soldiers to ever roam the battlefield during the Civil War. Whether you call them Bardan's sharpshooters or the United States sharpshooters, it doesn't matter. They were masters of their craft. Assassins, saboteurs, skirmishers, scouts, snipers, whatever you want to call them. They were perfect. Now, the role of these regiments was to unite perfect and elite soldiers, or well, shots in this case, from each of the loyal states of the Union and comprise them and put them onto the battlefield to rain hell amongst the Confederates. And that's what they did. Now this unit was no easy feat to get into. They are strict with their entry requirements, and before me I actually have the requirements, so I'm going to read them out to you.
That no man be accepted who cannot at 200 yards put 10 consecutive shots in a target, the average distance not to exceed 5 inches from the bullseye. By the fall of winter of 1861, the 1st Regiment of Sharpshooters were complete with companies A to K numbering over 1,000 men, A Company from New York under Captain Caspar Tripp, B Company from New York under Captain Stephen Martin, C Company from Michigan under Captain Benjamin Dusler, Company D from New York under Captain George S. Tuckerman, Company E from New Hampshire under Captain Amos B. Jones, F Company from Vermont under Captain Edmund Weston, G Company from Wisconsin under Captain Edward Drew, H Company from New York under Captain George Hastings, I Company from Michigan under Captain A. M. Willett, K Company from Michigan under Captain S. J. Mather. The 2nd Regiment was comprised of companies A to H, with A Company being from Minnesota under Captain Francis Peteler, B Company from Michigan under Captain Andrew B. Stewart, C Company from Pennsylvania under Captain John Dewey, D Company from Maine under Captain James Fassenden, E Company from Vermont under Captain Homer Stoughton, F Company from New Hampshire under Captain Henry Caldwell, G Company from New Hampshire Captain William McPherson, and H Company finally from Vermont under Captain Gilbert Hall. When contrasted to the rest of the Union Army, the outfit stood out like no other. Before being changed to a full green uniform with brown gaiters and usually brown or black boots, soldiers recall having to wear a dark green tunic with blue trousers, though through the Gettysburg campaign, the soldiers were wearing a modified blue uniform. When the troops were wearing their complete uniform, their quality leather knapsack, amongst other uniform qualities, apparently gave the soldiers a handsome aspect. This uniform would also help them blend in with the Eastern Theatre, given the regiments never saw action beyond the Mississippi. The men of the Sharpshooters Regiment were armed with various types of rifles, including the Sharps rifle, the Whitworth rifle, sporting arms, and various other custom-made privately owned target weapons. Some of these rifles weighed up to 30 pounds or 14 kilograms because they contained the first breed of telescopic sights. The first Sharps rifle, which were also used by the regiment, though there is a story behind this, in fact, that the rifle wasn't going to be used until Lincoln saw a demonstration of the rifle and ordered for many of them to be produced and given to the regiment, though many preferred to use their own rifle. It was first purchased by Private Truman, or Californian Joe Head, while the regiment was at the camp of instruction. Now, the rank structure mainly stays the same as the rest of the Union Army, with the ranks being from highest to lowest: the Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, Major, Captain, First Lieutenant, Second Lieutenant, Sergeant Major, Quartermaster Sergeant, First Sergeant, Sergeant, Corporal, and Private. Now that we've covered their structure, units, and uniform, let us cover the combat experience. The sharpshooters of the United States Army saw a variety of combat all over the Eastern Theatre during the period of the Civil War. The list of engagements is long, but with names such as Chancellorsville, Gettysburg, Fredericksburg, the 7 Days Campaign, and the Second Battle of Bull Run appearing continuously throughout all sources that I've seen. I noted during the first period of research that the 1st Company's regimental officers were as follows during the mid-campaigns of the war: the Colonel of the regiment, Hiram Berdan; Lieutenant Colonel, Ripley of Vermont; Major, would be the Trepp of New York, Adjutant would be Willett of Michigan, Quartermaster Beebe of New York, Chaplain Coit of Connecticut, Surgeon Marshall of New York. There was also the 2nd Regiment, which Colonel was Henry A.V. Post, Lieutenant Colonel Francis Peetler, Major Amos B. Jones, Adjutant Louis C. Parmalee, Quartermaster B.S. Califf, Chaplain Lorenzo Barber, and the Surgeon would be Chase P. Hale. Anyway, the Confederates' morale stood little chance against these soldiers on the battlefield, and in some way you could consider them ahead of their time with their targeting of high-value targets. The ability to fight would be crippled by the targeting of officers, NCOs, artillery battery commanders, and anybody of value. The sharpshooters were extraordinary riflemen, and with a profound skill for killing troops. They would have a big impact on battles, yet today in the Civil War facet of experience, it's widely discussed, but these sharpshooters are not really discussed at all. To a large extent, they remain unknown. But anyway, his 2 sharpshooter regiments were crucial in preventing rebel assaults on Devil's Den and the Peach Orchard Battle of Gettysburg. The invading Alabama Brigade of Cadmus Wilcox was stopped in its tracks by the 1st sharpshooters in a fierce engagement near Pitzer's Woods on Seminary Ridge. Berdan also oversaw the division for the remainder of the war, as well as the next Bristow and Mine Run operations.
Berdan was an inventor, a mechanic, an engineer, a soldier, a, incompetent officer, though there is dispute about this. Nevertheless, in 1861 he was tasked by Winfield Scott to form 18 companies, which would later form the 1st and 2nd United States Volunteer Sharpshooter Regiments.
His regiments were typically separated for specific tasks on the battlefield even when they were attached to a brigade. They served in skirmish duty rather than regularly, and Berdan participated in the Second Battle of Bull Run and the 7 Days Battles. His snipers were also present at the Battle of Shepherdstown in September of 1862. In February and March of 1863, Berdan oversaw the 2nd Brigade, 3rd Division and 3rd Corps of the Army of the Potomac, and at the Battle of Chancellorsville he took command of the 3rd Brigade. Although being a creative officer, he did struggle to gain the respect of his men and the commanders under him. General Daniel Buttersfield, Berdan's immediate commander, received written complaints from many of the sharpshooter captains in 1862, alleging that Berdan was both dishonest and a coward. Post-war, however, he was promoted to brevet major general, and then brevet brigadier general before that, though there is some controversy about the major general because it was never agreed by the Senate, though his post at Arlington National Cemetery says that he is a brevet major general, so I think it's widely regarded that he was, just without the Senate's approval, if that makes sense. It's a confusing idea, I know, but that's the story of Berdan himself. Now on to the dissolution of these regiments. However, the Civil War was not without its casualties, and the 1st Regiment suffered 10 officer and 143 enlisted deaths or mortally wounded, and 1 officer and 128 enlisted men died of disease for a total of 282 casualties. Lieutenant Colonel William Y. W. Ripley was wounded and later received the Medal of Honor for his efforts at the Battle of Malvern Hill. The 2nd Regiment suffered 8 officer and 117 enlisted men who were killed in action or mortally wounded, and 2 officers and 123 enlisted men who died of disease for a total of 250 fatalities. On December 31st, 1864, the 1st and the 2nd United States Volunteer Sharpshooter Regiments were combined, and on February 20th, 1865, the regiment was disbanded, with the surviving companies being dispersed as followed. Company A would go to the 1st Minnesota, Company B would be transferred to the 5th Michigan, Company C would be transferred to the 105th Pennsylvanian, Company D would be transferred to the 17th Maine, Company F would be transferred to the 5th New Hampshire, Company G would also be transferred to the 5th New Hampshire, Company H would be transferred to the 4th Vermont Volunteer, and with that, the sharpshooters no longer exist. There is still the Western Sharpshooters, but that's a different regiment that I won't be covering today. And with that, I'm going to draw today's video to a conclusion. I really hope you enjoyed this video today, guys, about the Berdan sharpshooters. I thought it was a unique sort of, not biographical, but also like documentary about a very particular regiment. I was asked to do a particular regiment, not this specific one, but one in general, and so I thought I'm just going to do it because we've already finished the rank structure of the Civil War, so I thought I might actually just start getting into some history. And with that, please like and subscribe, guys. I really hope you're enjoying the channel as much as I love making these videos. Remember, share, like, subscribe, comment down below, dislike if you didn't enjoy it. I just want to know your honest opinion. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. So I'll see you in the next video, guys.